And I believe Delane, are you there, Delane?
Yeah, Delane's there. We chatted before you
Okay.
got on.
Okay,
And
good.
We're open
Yeah.
now, so let's give it a couple minutes to kind of let everybody filter in. I don't know what the final tally of signups were. It was somewhere around 1,000. So hopefully we get lots and lots. We got great, awesome information today. So we'll give another couple minutes and just let everybody filter in, and then we'll get rocking and rolling. Need to take the train down there and see you again and get updated with everything going on.
Yep.
Well, let's go ahead and get started with some of the housekeeping. Everyone, welcome. I know there's many who are filtering in as we're speaking. My name is Brett Wells. I'm a dentist in North Carolina, in Raleigh, North Carolina, a practicing dentist, going through all of this with all of you. I'm also founder of Dental HQ. It's a in-house dental membership plan program, a full service program. We do the marketing materials, training, we have the software, and we are crazy busy right now because I think everyone's realizing that these membership plans are going to be a big part of the recovery with a lot of our patients losing their dental insurance. The topic of today's webinar, though, is very little to do with memberships, although Dr. Blair's, and a lot to do with the following subjects, mainly teledentistry, because that's super hot right now. He's also going to talk about the after hours code. If you have an emergency call after hours that some of the insurances will cover. Like I mentioned, he's going to mention a little brief discussion on membership plans. He's going to talk about the ADA initiative to get the additional cost for PPE as a new code we can charge out to the insurance companies, because I know a lot of dentists are concerned about the high cost of our personal protective equipment. So he's going to touch on that. And the last thing he just let me know that he's going to touch on, which I think is fantastic, is the lab waiver form that you need if you're going to be doing the testing, the antibody testing in your office. As the tests are coming out, I mean, the hope is we could get the cost of this testing down to where it's very reasonable to be testing your teams, to be testing your patients, and potentially even, and Dr. Blair could touch on this, if it's possible, we could submit it to their medical insurance and get reimbursed for it. So it could be a revenue center for us. The last thing I want to mention, last piece of housekeeping, because I am an actively practicing dentist, I am utilizing teledentistry in my practice. I'm very excited to hear what Dr. Blair has to say. Our team at Dental HQ has put together this really amazing 10-minute how-to video of how to integrate one of the awesome teledentistry platforms. There's a bunch of them out there. We picked one, and how to integrate that to an automated scheduling platform and have a fully automated solution where you don't even need your front desk involved. You just have a link, you put it out there to your patients via email, your website, marketing campaigns. They click it, they schedule the the teledentistry meeting with you. You get emails, they get emails. It's all automated. It's a beautiful workflow that makes this solution of teledentistry very easy for us to implement without a lot of speed bumps. You all will get email of this webinar as well as that how-to video in the next 24 hours. Feel free to share on Facebook and social media. And other than that, Dr. Blair, did I miss anything?
I think you're in good shape.
All right, well, I'm going to turn it over to him to take over. We'll have about 40 to 45 minutes of presentation from Dr. Blair, and then we'll take about 15 to 20 minutes at the end of questions. If you see the Q&A button at the bottom, if you'll please ask any questions through that, that will be helpful for me to keep them all organized. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, very good. And I'm looking here right now to get the slides up, and I do not see you don't see the slides now, do you, Brett?
I don't right yet. There's a share button at the bottom.
Yes, it's a shared screen, and click that on, and I do not see the let's see here. Yeah, here we go. I got it. I've got it. I've got it. There we go. Yep. And let me get slideshow going. There we go. You see it now?
Yep.
First
Looking
slide.
good.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, folks, I'm happy to be with you today. I'm Dr. Charles Blair. I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina, and very pleased to bring to you a webinar here along with Brett. We're going to talk about teledentistry, going to talk about the PPE charges, a couple other codes, and so stay tuned for what we're going to talk about today. Just a couple of disclaimers. I'm not an attorney, and so this is for informational training purposes only. If you need any legal advice, you need to be talking to a healthcare attorney. Another disclaimer is that I've researched all of this, but just because I make a statement that here's a code, it's going to generally be covered, doesn't really mean it will be, because there's no guarantee. Also, the ADA's mantra is always code what you do. That means if I code out a pan and bite wings today, I must report that. That's what I did. It would be illegal to report a full series. I didn't take a full series. But yet when the payer gets that pan and bite wings, they may say, oh, we're going to pay an alternative benefit of a full series amount of money. They can always do that. So the payers can always pay an alternative. So always code what you do. Always follow the current CDT code sets. We go crazy. In our company, we have 3 different books, and we update over 2,000 pages every year to be sure that whatever we said about the codes, whatever we said about insurance administration is accurate each and every year. Now, a warning. This is a changing landscape. Everything what we're talking about is crazy. It's changing. And so this webinar, I want to warn you, is current as of the 28th of this month, yesterday. So it's a changing landscape. Also check the ADA website throughout this crisis. They are constantly updating information there as it becomes available. And also you might check your state board, check your dental society and so forth. So it is a changing landscape. So what is my objective today? I want to simplify the coding and reimbursement and decrease the confusion regarding teledentistry. The chat rooms are just full of misinformation out there, and I want to try to cut to the chase. And what I'm going to present too is ADA gives you a number of codes. They say here's 5, here's 6 potential codes. But what they can't say is this is maybe the best code for reimbursement. This one pays better. I'm independent. So I can look at the codes, I can give you my opinion and try to cut to the chase and try to simplify some of your research. So the sources, and check often for updates, the ADA, your state dental society. Also check with your malpractice insurance company. You need to check with them about teledentistry coding, that type of thing, if there's any other requirements right now. And then, of course, your state dental board. The ADA is guidelines. They have a bully pulpit. The state dental society is guidelines. But your malpractice insurance company legally controls what they're going to cover. And remember that the state board legally controls licensed dentists and licensed hygienists, and in certain cases, certified dental assistants, depending on the state. So what codes might apply to a virtual appointment? Well, we've got 2 codes. There's 2 teledentistry codes. They've been out roughly for 4 years. They haven't seen much activity, and frankly, many states, it's not necessarily legal. It's always legal to call a patient and talk to them. But what may be illegal is to actually bill out for an exam done through teledentistry. That's what you've got to check to be sure is legal. So with teledentistry, we have basically 2 codes, 9995. That's a synchronous real-time encounter. That's the one that applies to you. So when the dentist is talking real time to the patient, both audio, both some hopefully type of video or visual means, that's a 9995. Just for information, the 9996 code, that's where information is stored and forwarded to a dentist for subsequent review. An example might be a dentist, a hygienist, say out with a tribe in Alaska, and they are taking some pictures, information, intraoral camera, x-rays, this and that of a patient. They send it over to the dental school down at Washington State. That's what we're talking about with 9996. So I want you to forget 9996. I'm basically not going to talk about that really anymore. So the one that applies to the patient and the dentist, a real-time encounter, is 9995. Now, how do we report that on the claim? Well, first of all, step one, put it on the line below the service that you've actually rendered. So I'm giving you an example here, code 0140. You can see 0140 about 5 or 6 times on slides here today, because that is the best code. So I want to embed that in your brain as you go through this. By the way, you might want to go back. Is this posted where they can re-look at this webinar today?
Yes, it absolutely. It's going to be emailed to everyone in the next 24 hours.
Excellent. So if you would look again, folks, just go through it a second time, hear it, because sometimes you want to hear what I'm saying, but I may not say what you think you're hearing. So you may want to thumb through this presentation a second time. The other thing that's important is what makes it a teledentistry claim. Well, we must put in the teledentistry place of service, and that's box 38 on your dental claim form. Now, there's about 80 places of service. There's the hospital, there's outpatient clinics, there's nursing homes, and there's dental offices. Right now, with your Dentrix, whatever software you have, the current default is 11. That indicates a dental office. But to be a teledentistry claim, we must put 02 in the place of service. So you need 2 items to make it a teledentistry claim. You've got to have 9995 on a line item, and you've got to have 02 in the place of service. So what about charging a separate fee? Now, I'm going to give you a strategy session later, and Brett's welcome to come in and pile in and have his comments about it. But for right now, the short answer is a fee can definitely be charged, but currently the reimbursement by payers is extremely low, and we're seeing somewhere in the $10, $15 area if it is reimbursed. And is it kind of piling on to even charge a fee for $99.95 in addition to your exam fee? So stay tuned. We're going to kind of cover later kind of our fee strategy conversation. But for right now, I want to kind of tee it up as we go through some of these codes. The bottom line is, do you really want to charge them? Maybe they are charged, can be charged. And we'll also see how PPOs, if you're a member of a PPO, you've got certain handcuffs. And we'll see how that applies a little later in the presentation. So what codes? The ADA has a number of codes listed on their website. So I want to kind of cycle through the various codes. I want to list what they are and give you some insight into the reimbursement and into their proper utilization. Code 140, that's the problem-focused limited oral exam. That's the one you use right now, doctors in your practice and team members. When a patient comes in for an emergency visit in your dental office, that is the most common code, 140. And the insurance companies, frankly, they are geared up to pay this particular code. They recognize it. So I'm going to classify this as excellent. A second code is a re-exam. That's code 170. It's limited problem focused, but it's an established patient. And so a re-exam is where you come back and examine something a second time. An example might be trauma. A kid comes in today, gets a busted lip, a couple of teeth that are fairly mobile, not enough to wire him up. And I tell the mother, let's get Johnny back. You know, he's had trauma today. I've done kind of a limited exam here. Let's get him back in 4 weeks. That's an example of a reevaluation. Another might be a lesion on Ms. Smith. I discover a lesion today, and I say, hey, this may be nothing, but I really don't want to wait 6 months. Let's get you back in 4, 5, 6 weeks. That's the second example of code 170. The next code, I kind of refer to it as a trash code. It's code 171. It's a re-exam. It's post-operative office visit. And so it's a re-exam, and in many cases, it is no charge, where the patient's coming back, maybe removing a suture, coming back with a denture, whatever. And so the coverage for 171 is virtually none. A couple more codes on the ADA website. They mentioned that a screening of a patient could be used, but this determines the need and to be seen by a dentist for diagnosis. An example of this is more in a healthcare setting, say in a school, maybe a hygienist or assistant sees a patient with a tongue blade, it just looks in the mouth and says, hey, looks like you need to see a dentist. That's code 190. So it's a possibility for a team member, and we'll find that, again, the reimbursement is just virtually a zip. And an unspecified diagnostic procedure, that is code 09999, and that is normally not reimbursed. But I did want to go through kind of the potential codes, and then I want to simplify and zero in on the one that you really want to use. Another thing is that if we're doing just audio means only, that's a screening. If a doctor is talking to a patient over the phone, we're going to find that that does not qualify for code 140. Why? There's no visual means. So if it's audio means only, it would be screening. It would be 09999, and again, very poor or no coverage. So a call center, again, screening 09999, again, very, very poor. So is there an evaluation code available to report? And yes, and the reality is these 3 evaluations that I've kind of covered to some degree here. So is one of these procedures superior? Is one of these procedures best reimbursement coverage overall by most payers? And would one of these evaluation codes have a better UCR, a better reimbursement level? Then yes. And that is the winner, code 0140. But we need to be sure that we can qualify for code 0140. There is some qualifications. So what are the typical limitations for evaluations? Most plans, they either pay for 2 evaluations per calendar year or 1 evaluation per 6 months. A very few may cover 2 emergencies plus 2 routine evaluations. So the typical policy, I see Ms. Jones for a couple of checkups a year. I burn up 2 exams. If she comes in for an emergency exam, would that one be paid with most policies? No. Or if a patient comes in and is paid for an emergency exam, and then they come in for their routine checkup, would that exam be paid? In many cases, no, because these policies are written, again, to limit how much money is actually paid out and to control cost employer. So what about COVID-19? What's happened here? Well, again, this is a changing ballgame, to say the least. And we do see a few plans, a few payers, Aetna plans as an example, some of them have waived these traditional limits, and now they cover these additional evaluations. So COVID-19 has changed the ballgame some. And so you will have to check and see, though, just on a given policy. Are there any other codes that have been mentioned for teledentistry consideration? Yes, there is a code for an office visit after regularly scheduled hours. That's code 9440. This is where the doctor returns to the office after regular hours and opens up the office. And you would report this code in addition to services rendered, but the reimbursement is fairly rare. But for instance, Delta Dental of Hawaii, Hawaii Dental Service is called, they do reimburse this code. So it should not be abused. How does this code work? Let's say my office is open typically 4.5 days a week. So on Friday, myself and our team, we leave at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, go home, I'm eating a sandwich, and here comes an emergency call in. And a kid has some trauma. So I call one of my dental assistants and say, hey, can you come back to the office and meet me? So we go back to the office. I open up the office. That's the purpose of this code. Now, can this code be abused? Yes, I was talking to one of the dental directors about this code. He said, yep. He said, we've had some offices try to abuse us. We had an office that, for instance, if they saw a patient after 5 o'clock, they said, oh, our normal hours are 5 o'clock. So they would tell an emergency patient, hey, we'll see at the end of the day. They never left the office. They never shut the office down. They just saw the emergency patient. Maybe they got there at 4:45 and they saw the patient, pulled them back. And anyway, if the patient was there after 5 o'clock, they turned this code in. That's an abuse. Another abuse would be, let's say right now, my office is seeing emergency patients only, and I have my normal emergency hours. Let's say every Tuesday, Thursday, I go into my office with my team, limited team members. We see emergency patients on those 2 days. Well, I couldn't code out 9440. That is regularly scheduled emergency hours. But if I went in on Monday, though, a patient called and they'd been in severe pain over the weekend, and I say, hey, we're not really open until tomorrow for emergencies, but I will make a special trip into you today and see you. Yes, that's an appropriate use of this code. Again, though, the reimbursement is not good, but I want to give you, again, the possibilities because there's a lot of talk in the chat rooms and things about various coding, and I want to show you what those codes are and what the handcuffs might be or the green light that you might have on that given code. There's also a code for case management, 9992, and it's care coordination. This code, again, has got its limitations. What is this code? When would we charge it? I won't read what's on the slide, but the bottom line is I'm a GP. I call the patient's physician. I burn up a half hour talking to the physician about the patient. I'm checking out the patient a couple, maybe I talk to a specialist. Anyway, I burn extra time. How could I build that time out? Well, it's under the Dental Case Management Code 9992. We see some coverage of this with certain Medicaid programs, certain states, but again, it's a bit of an issue. So this is the code that could report then that consultation between the dentist and the patient's physician. So very little coverage at this point. Also, the trend does not appear to be positive for coverage at this point. So it's important, I think, that we do discuss trends. So, the trend is that code 140 is going to be better and better for teledentistry. The trend is that a lot of the plans are temporarily adding an additional exam for teledentistry. That is a positive thing. So let's look at a summary. This is a summary of some of the teledentistry codes, and I've covered the best codes to report based on reimbursement, based on the fee level. So what about the philosophy of charging patients for the various teledentistry reported codes? Stay tuned because we're going to get into all of that. So the best code overall is going to be 140. Best, the coverage trend is improving. Some payers are increasing the frequency limitation. There's 6 or 7 of these evaluation codes. There's code 0120, code 140, code 145, code 150, code 160, code 170, code 180, There's a bunch of them. Any of these codes that you put on a claim form and you charge for burns up an exam. And again, the typical limitation is 2 exams per year or 1 exam per 6 months. So should you even charge for code 140? Well, for long-term patients, some dentists may be a little reluctant. But keep in mind, though, that insurance reimbursement is very good for this code. For new patients, some dentists may charge. I don't know this patient at all. I'm seeing them during this pandemic or talking to them for teledentistry over this period of time. May never see them again. Now, understand, this can be a great marketing opportunity. So in some cases, we're doing the teledentistry, and frankly, kind of the HIPAA goes out the back door to a degree. I'm talking to a patient, they're in their home. Maybe a family member is taking a picture of their mouth or whatever. There may be a friend or neighbor over. So there is some opportunity for you to look good, to have a caring attitude. So let's really get some mileage out of teledentistry. And then at the end of the day, it's up to the doctor to choice, your choice, as to charge your standard fee for this. Or it could be a higher fee. It could be a lower fee, as long as you're consistent in the charges. One other point, and please don't misunderstand this slide right here, but the government has temporarily said that copays and deductibles can be forgiven as far as the teledentistry exam codes. Now, that is not when the patient comes in the office. It does not mean that Ms. Jones comes in emergency basis, I do a filling under emergency or extraction, and there's some kind of copay there. I cannot routinely forgive that. That would be illegal. But right now, copays and deductibles are forgiven on the teledentistry. This primarily relates to the medical plans, because so many times in the medical teledentistry, there are copays, there are deductibles, and right now they can be forgiven. In the dental world, we don't have much of that, but let me point out a situation. Let's say that a PPO patient goes out of network to see me, and I do an exam. In some cases, if they go out of network, there is a deductible, there is a copay, sometimes they pay less. So there are some situations in the dental world where there might be copays, deductibles on the teledentistry coding that we have. Again, once they're in the office, we cannot do routine copay forgiveness or deductible forgiveness. Another thing that comes into play is HIPAA. What about the technology? What technologies are allowed? Which ones are not allowed? And they have loosened up the HIPAA requirements. It does not have to be HIPAA compliant, but there are certain platforms that they indicate are fine. Smartphones, either voice or text, Apple FaceTime, Skype, Google Hangouts, Zoom, Facebook Video Messenger. Now, Instagram, Facebook Live, TikTok is not. You should have an informed consent form, technically, for your teledentistry. And on the ADA website, they do have a sample teledentistry informed consent form.
Dr. Blair,
Yes, sir.
just touch in real quick. We've been at Dental HQ and myself doing a lot of research on the different teledentistry platforms.
Yes.
And, you know, I've demoed a bunch of them, and there's a lot of awesome ones out there. And most of them are all offering free, either free permanently. Some of them have levels that are free, and some of them are offering it for free over the next few months.
That's correct.
And they are fully HIPAA compliant, and there's no issue with all that. So, you know, definitely want to recommend those. But the HIPAA, I'm sorry, the consent form with the HIPAA, how would you recommend? Would you recommend like emailing that or sending that through the teledentistry, or is it a verbal thing? Or can you touch on that?
Yeah, basically you might email that to them, and you might email them also, of course, maybe a medical history form maybe an intake sheet for your practice that you want them to fill out before they actually say come into the office later. So that's how that would be. I don't think it's going to, frankly, again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't think it's going to break the bank. I don't think it's a big deal, but a really big deal. But it's just something, again, that the ADA has indicated would be, good to do that. Now, you might go ahead and mention some of the platforms at this point. Brett, I'm familiar with a few.
Yeah.
My physician, I recently did a telemedicine with my physician, and I really, really enjoyed it. It was kind of a different dimension, and they use Doxy, DOXY.me. That's very popular over in the hospitals space and physician space. But why don't you give us a few, some of your insight and research?
Yeah, and so just to kind of let everybody know how I've been approaching teledentistry. First off is for patients who call in for emergency. So our office is open on limited hours for emergencies only, and we were starting to get kind of filled up. And so we're now offering patients the option of seeing myself or one of our doctors via teledentistry for $49. So we haven't gone the insurance route. We just say it's $49, and we collect all of their patient paperwork, and we then send them the link to schedule their teledentistry. And that's what we're going to show you guys in the little how-to video we're going to send along with this recording, is how to integrate. Actually, we chose Doxy.me because that's a free platform, and it's super easy, and how to integrate that with the automated scheduling platform. And you can add a paywall in front of that, so it's fully automated. You don't even have to get your front desk involved. We are not partners with any of these companies. We just wanted to put together a really easy tutorial to make it easy for dentists to implement this. So we offer that in my office as one option for emergency patients as an overflow if they want to be seen right away, or maybe they have something where they feel like they don't need to come into the office. And then we have an option for virtual consults for like implants, Invisalign, cosmetic dentistry, where I emailed the link out to all of my patients. I put it on our website, did a little social media ad. We've got all of our doctors sitting at home kind of twiddling their thumbs, and I was like, why not give patients the ability to get in front of us and ask questions that they've had about all these different more elective procedures. So that's been really successful too, fully automated through these integrations. So we'll send out a video on how to do all that. But so Doxy.me, Dentulo, we've spoken with them, great dentist run company. Mouthwatch, the intraoral camera company that makes the intraoral cameras a lot of us use. They have I think it's called, I forget the name of it, but they have a teledentistry platform that actually you can integrate their camera with. And then what's the other one? Simplify just released a platform. And I know those are 4, but there's probably 8 to 10 out there. Revenue Well, I think, has one. So lots of different options out there, and most all of them are offering them for free, at least for the few months. Doxy.me has a free version, has a free level that's always free. So that's why we kind of chose them to put together in our how-to guide. So just my 2 cents.
And some of them too have, I think, a 45-minute timeline, some of the free versions, whereas if you're paying for it, it's unlimited. But yeah, there are many companies, and like you say, they're giving it away for several months right now. Many of them, it's no charge right now. So it's kind of wide open. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you back? Are you seeing my screen now at this point?
I'm seeing you again. Yes, Dr. Blair.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. So here's some references here as far as HIPAA. Again, it's awfully loose right now. And,
so Dr. Blair, I'm sorry. I'm seeing you personally. I'm not seeing your slides.
Oh, you're not. Let's see here. That means I've got to
hit the share.
I've got to hear the share again down at the bottom. Here we go. And then I believe this is the one that I'll share. Let's see.
There you go. Good to go.
Good to go. Okay. Here we go. All right, great. I'm learning all this technology. I tell you, I've been used to lecturing for many, many years, and I've had to get into this technology, and actually, I kind of like it. There's some psychology of being able to see the person on the other end of it. So anyway, what about charging then for the 9995 code? It's not typically covered. We do see fees around the $12 to $15 range. And I think another thing that comes into play is, are you actually paying a separate teledentistry fee? Or in many cases, you're not at this point. See here. There we go. So another consideration is it piling on to charge extra in addition to code 140. So again, you got to decide if 9995 is going to be charged in addition. One other thing about 9995 also that can be tricky, and depending on the company, is that 9995 going to transmit with your software with a zero fee? Or do you need to put a zero in there for the fee? Do you leave the fee blank? Do you put a $1 in there to get it to transmit? So just warning you that there may be some issues on transmitting that 9995 code, and you may have to talk to your, to your support folks to find out, in regards to that as you kind of ramp up and start doing this. What about charging for the management case and so forth? Again, is that piling on? So at the end of the day, you've got to decide the appropriate charge for the most appropriate situation. Okay, I'm just wondering, am I repeating some of this or no? I don't think so. No, I'm not. Okay, this is in regards to the patient record. You want to put of course, fill out the claim properly, but also it's important in your clinical notation. And you want to record the aspects of what you said in your notes, and that also be sure that if there's any visual means to it, you're either seeing the patient visually or they're transmitting you pictures. Be sure and do that, because the ADA says that code 140, it has a audio component, but it has a visual component. And if you don't have the visual component, then you cannot code this code out. Document the reason for the encounter, the diagnosis, the condition of the patient, establishes the emergent need for telehealth. And so any photos they send you, be sure that you put that into your clinical record. Okay, a couple comments about the personal protection equipment, PPE. This is very hot right now. And back in the HIV days, where we started wearing gloves and things, only in dental school wore gloves when I was trained just for oral surgery procedures, and out in my practice, frankly I did pedo and didn't frankly wear gloves hardly at all. And that was back in the 70s, of course. But now there's a big debate, and should we charge for it? Is there a code and so forth? So the code committee has not opted to come up with a code, and I just don't know that they will. What they've opted for in the meantime is ADA says, yes, you can charge separately for this. And they have indicated with letters to the different payers, please consider extra reimbursement. So there's not a specific code. So you report 19999. That's an unspecified preventive procedure. Remember, we must write a narrative with any 999 code. So document the PPE in your visit notes. Remember too, that all PPOs, every one of them I'm aware of, they require all charges to the patient must be submitted to the PPO for review. So if I'm in a PPO, I can't on the side cut a deal with the patient and say, hey, I'm going to charge you this right here for a lab upgrade, or I'm going to charge you this right here. You must disclose that to the PPO. Other thing people don't realize, even like tooth whitening. Do tooth whitening for Ms. Jones, I'm in a PPO. Well, if I'm not in a PPO, I just say, hey, they don't pay for this. She says, I know, don't even send it in. But if I'm in a PPO, I've got to turn in the tooth whitening. At that point, is the PPO going to pay it? No, but they could control my fee. And we call that fee capping for non-covered procedures. Also, when you put a given procedure in, a PPO can deny that procedure. And so if I put in this D11999 charge, what can the PPO do? Well, they could deny it, and that means that they're not paying. The PPO does not pay, but the patient does. Or they can disallow, and that means we must write the whole thing off. So it's a little bit tricky with PPOs. So you really need to check with each PPO the process. And we think that this 19999 charge will probably be disallowed. Also, we're aware of a couple companies that are going to pay this without putting the D1999 on the claim form. It's our understanding that New Jersey and Connecticut Delta, those two states are owned by common ownership, that those two PPOs, those deltas, they're going to pay a separate charge. I think it's like $10 for each patient encounter. And if you've got electronic funds transfer, and it's only for their own in-network doctors. So if I see X number of Delta patients during the month, then say I see 200 Delta patients during the month, multiply 200 times the 10, and that would be the check or the electronic funds transfer that I would receive. So sometimes it could be just a separate payment, as in the case of Delta Dental, and that's what we're hearing. Or it could be that you've got to put, Brett, the 1999 charge, actually on the claim form in order to get this paid. So again, it's a personal, do you want to charge it or not? At the end of the day, the dentist will have to decide. And my view is that the real cost as we ramp this back up is going to be that productive doctor that's hopping around 6 operatories, dancing around, got a couple of hygienists are checking. Boy, when you start, as we ramp back up, and you're kind of seeing one patient at a time with this extra PPE, then that is going to be the real economic hit. But everything counts up. And also, as you know, some of this equipment right now, I understand some of these masks are $10 and normally they're $1 or something. And so some of this PPE is really, really expensive, but it will become more commodity as it becomes more widely available. So that's the situation on this PPE business. Okay, let's see. I wanted to talk about one other thing, and that is the certificate of waiver. We have June 1, the ADA is going to release 2 new CDT codes. The committee can do that mid-year if they want to. And so June 1, the ADA is going to have 2 new CDT codes. One is for testing for the antibody, and that at this point is not chairside. You've got to send it into a lab, and then a lab is going to take a couple days to get back, like LabCorp and that kind of thing. Also, it can be $100 if not higher. That's the antibody test. And then the other test is, say, a chairside test where within 5 to 15 minutes, maybe the patient comes in, they wait in their car, wait in the reception area, you give them the test. You may do the temperature check with them and all that other. So the other test is actually checking for the virus. So if you just order a test, you don't need this certificate of waiver, it's called. But if you're actually doing a test in your office, if you're doing saliva testing, as an example, or you do this test for the virus, or maybe an oral surgeon before certain anesthesia procedures might do even a pregnancy test or before certain anesthesia. If you do any of that, then you're supposed to register with CLIA, capital C-L-I-A, and the process is to register with your state, and then you've got to do certain paperwork, And what I would advise everybody listening, go to my website. We've got articles on PPE. We've got articles on this certificate of waiver. We've got articles on teledentistry. So go to practicebooster.com, and then across the top of the website, we're going to have a banner, but our programmer is going to put up the banner probably today. But as of a couple minutes ago, it's still not up. But going to the website, across the top are some buttons. There's a blog button, BLOD. Hit that blog button, and then you can look at the most recent articles, and we're updating those literally every week if anything in that article changes. So there you can get a specific article on PPE, a specific article on CLIA, the certificate, if you're going to do testing in the office, and also teledentistry. Okay. Let's see. I think we wanted to chat a little bit, maybe about in-house discount plans and so forth. I think you were interested in my thoughts about that.
Yeah, just touch on that, and then we have about 8 or 10 questions that have come through regarding the presentation so far. So maybe just touch on the membership plans for just a couple minutes, and then we will hit the questions that are coming through.
Okay, very good. Well, certainly you're the expert in your company and so forth, but from my observation, just a third party looking at it, I think that, and what you've got is the technology to automate it. So like a family of 4 could have a monthly payment, make it affordable, and as far as their basic checkups. And I really think that it's for the future, and it's for the here and now. I think that longer term, that a lot of doctors, it's awfully tough to stay totally out of the PPOs. So I think a combination maybe of 2 to 5 PPOs plus an in-house discount plan, and that opens up some additional arenas for marketing. You also can market that to small businesses in your area. Many of them think they can't afford dental insurance and all that. Well, they certainly could afford a $300 fee per employee for a basic. You cannot sell it to the employer as insurance, of course, and so you need to be cautious in how that is presented to the employer. But basically, the employees could come into the office, enroll in the in-house discount plan, each employee register, and then they go back to their employer and turn that in for reimbursement. So I think that the in-house discount is viable. I think too, Brett, knowing that you've got some leading edge technology there. So that's kind of my comments on in-house discount plans.
Yeah, great. And Dr. Blair, if you wouldn't mind, can you put your screen back on where we're seeing you?
Okay, let me give you just a couple more slides.
Okay.
This is very quickly the Practice Booster, our online coding system, which is available. We do have a code book. We do have an admin book. We have a bundled price on both books. Frankly, if you're going to buy a book, get the administrative book. It is chock full of how to deal with these PPOs. A whole lot of other things are basically in there. And again, we've got a medical dental cross-coding and so forth. So we'll go to questions. I'll go up here and stop sharing here. And there we go. Does that get us back
Perfect.
on?
Looking
Okay.
great. So yeah, thanks for touching on all of this. A lot of information to unpack here. About membership plans real quick, we do have some really cool stuff. We have launched a feature called Business Connect where you can actually sign up businesses directly into your membership plan, and they can subsidize the cost of that plan for their employees and invite all their employees to join your plan. It's proprietary, it's innovative, there's nothing out there like it, and it's ERISA and compliant with all the laws out there. So it's a pretty cool new functionality that we have. So thanks for touching on that. We have gotten a lot of questions, so let me just jump into that because the main topic today was a lot of the coding discussion and the teledentistry. So Marcy asked, NCAD, which I think is North Carolina Medicaid. I don't do Medicaid, so I'm not really sure of the code, but she said they were denied code D9995 with reason invalid place of service for procedure or revenue code. Is Medicaid lagging behind a little bit here with the reimbursement of teledentistry?
Well, in some cases, they certainly do cover. Now, my question for her would be, when she filed that claim with Medicaid, did she put the place of service 02, or did she have her place of service 11 for her dental office? So she might have not filed a proper claim with Medicaid. Remember, we put 9995 down, but we must put the place of service 02. That's the teledentistry place of service. So it may be that she had 11 for her place of service and it was rejected. I do know that more and more Medicaids are going to cover this. I think there's going to be an avalanche of coverage, probably with Medicaid. I also saw a pediatric dentist had a question there, came up on my screen briefly about our books, or our books for pediatric dentistry, and they certainly are. Pedo, particularly, all of the specialties, granted, endo and ortho don't really have that many codes, but still, they need to know how to do the codes. The typical dentist does 90 codes a year, GP. The referodontist does about 60. The decathlon doctor dentist who is placing implants and stuff, about 120 procedures a year, but that 20 procedures is 90% of your income.
Yeah, I think that's so important to know for dentists. When you're negotiating these insurance rates, you know, you're getting majority of your income, even from just 10 codes. I mean, you know, we get all distracted with, you know, our implant reimbursement fee and these random fees. It's literally 90+% of your income typically for most offices are coming from just 10 codes. So those are the ones you need to focus on when you're negotiating. But so the next question, would insurance company ever pay less for your 0140 code if you're submitting as teledentistry than they would if you were doing it in office?
We doubt it. It probably could, but we think that at least what we're seeing right now is it looks like the reimbursement for code 0140 is identical for either teledentistry or your normal exam. Certainly, I wouldn't be surprised if somebody said that, but at least what we're seeing right now, the input that we have in general, it seems to be roughly the same fee.
Perfect. That's great. Let's see here. Boo asked if you use D9996, D9440, D0140, and services rendered all together.
Well, the other services, if I'm doing teledentistry, I can't be pulling the tooth, I can't do the filling and all that. So
Might be a little tough.
it'd be nice if you could, but teledentistry is going to primarily be, it's going to be the exam, it's going to be the 9995 code, and it's going to be the possibly that management code. It's kind of a far out one. So when they come in the office, then we're not going to put the teledentistry code down, obviously, and it's just going to be the regular office coding. Now there, possibly the 9440, that after hours code, could apply to an office visit where you did come back and open up the office specifically for that patient.
Okay, responding to some questions here. Okay, so patient. Okay, so patient comes in, contact. Patient record contacts you at the beginning of March, and you do a consult on FaceTime or teledentistry. Fast forward to the end of April, and the patient can no longer wait due to pain. You go into the office, open it up just for the patient. I assume this is an office that's closed that isn't seeing patients through this. Could you bill out the 0140 and 9995 for March and the 9440 when you go in to treat the patient in April?
Well, in April, you couldn't use the when you're doing the teledentistry, the previous month, of course, you put down the teledentistry coding and you put down the code 0140. When they actually come in the office that month later, that's face-to-face. Now it's going to be the code 140 plus any treatment that you do, you know, face-to-face in the office. Now, if you open the office up specifically for that patient, then that after hours code could be in addition to the treatment at that second month when they do come in the office.
Okay. And I'm not as familiar with these codes as you are, so I might be asking a question that you've already answered, but I don't have all these memorized as well as you do. When you say charges permitted, does that imply we can collect from the patient, or cannot collect this money because of insurance participation contracts?
Well, again, we submit it, And if you're going to charge for it, put the charge down, submit it, and then once they get it, like this PPE code 19999, once they get it, a PPO, when they receive a procedure, they can either deny the procedure, that means they're not paying, but we do collect from the patient. That's so important, Brett. Or they disallow the procedure, which means I got to totally write it off. I cannot collect from the patient. So that's how that works.
Okay.
Yeah. Now there was a question I noticed here, Crystal. I believe it said, "Do you need the CLIA to do teledentistry?" No, you do not. The teledentistry, I do say check with your state board. North Carolina, as an example, that's where we're located. Teledentistry is fine. They just had a little bulletin about it there. So the CLIA, what that refers to is in office. I'm doing testing in the office for the virus, or I'm doing antibody testing. Now, right now, to my knowledge, the antibody testing is not any kind of a chairside test. It's got to go out. It takes several days for it to be processed and get the return. So if the doctor is just ordering a test, just telling the patient or calling up the lab and so forth, you don't need CLIA. But if you are given the test yourself and you've got one of these 5-minute, 15-minute virus detection tests and you break the kit open, patient's right there in the office, you're now testing. If you're doing saliva testing, or you're an oral surgeon, maybe even doing pregnancy testing for certain anesthesia procedures, then yes, you are subject to this, getting the certificate. Basically, it's $180 for 2 years. And the exception would be New York, and Washington State has a little different process. But you get this information as far as your own state. You just go to the state health department, our website, and just punch in CLIA, capital C-L-I-A, and it should pop up as far as the division within the state government that handles this laboratory testing. There's about 4 levels of testing, and so the lowest level is the level we're talking about. Now, if you're going to have the instrumentation in your office where you're running all these tests and you have instruments, then you're going to have a much higher level certificate. It's going to be more costly. Also, they may come in and inspect the office. Supposedly, there's no inspections of your dental office. So the state will not be coming in and checking you out if you have this low-level certificate, unless there would be some type of somebody puts in some type of complaint about you specifically. That's how that works.
Perfect. A couple more questions, then we'll wrap everything up. Quick one, what are people charging for PPE? I've seen $10. That was kind of what was in my head, but is there a recommended fee schedule the insurances are saying, and what are you seeing out there?
I would say, again, $10 to $20 maybe would be a range, but as far as reimbursement levels, anything that we've seen thus far has been at the $10 level as far as what a payer is going to pay.
So
it's up to the doctor to determine what they want to charge.
Let me dig into that a little bit. One comment for me as a dentist is just to, kind of advise my colleagues, if you're going to charge this fee, I think you need to be very, very transparent and communicate very well with your patients about why you're charging it. You want them to understand we're charging this fee to take better care and protect you and our teams. It's not just to make an extra $10 per appointment. So I think it's going to be very important that you communicate this and how you communicate to your patients to not have kind of some bad taste in their mouth when you do it. So communication is going to be vital if you do it. And then I forgot where I was going with that. So we'll go on to another question. The next.
I totally agree on that, but you're dead on that. You've got to really communicate to the patient. You don't want them to get a bad taste in their mouth. And also, for instance, teledentistry, like if I was doing Invisalign, if I'm a GP doing Invisalign, I've been paid for that case, and I'm having the patient come in the office periodically. And so I'm just doing kind of a teledentistry wellness check today. and then charging the patient for that visit, I don't know, for something like that.
Yeah.
So you need to, I think it's a more of a marketing opportunity. And so they do need to be cautious. Any fees here that we're talking about, any of these codes we're going to charge, we've got to have A+ communication with the patient about it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So very important through this. And somebody had asked, the last question for you, and then I'll take one of these questions, but someone had asked if their assistant does a teledentistry exam with a patient, can they bill that out? My assumption is the answer is no, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's right. They could maybe do the screening code or possibly the 0990 code, which is just not going to be paid. And I would really be cautious on trying to bill anything out with either the assistant or the hygienist. Certain states, the hygienist, can practice independently. Now there, if the hygienist is running their own practice and they, are licensed and so forth, that would be a little different story. But in the normal scheme of things, I would not want to do any kind of billing myself, trying to bill anything where the front desk, the assistant, or the hygienist was talking to the patient, teledentistry wise. I would just be cautious and stay away from that.
Great. And then last question, we can both talk about this, or I can. Someone, just because it relates to membership plans, somebody asked, how are membership plans different from direct reimbursement? I love, because everyone's forgotten about direct reimbursement. I thought it was such a great idea. That's where the employees get the work done, and then you bill the employers directly, and you cut out the insurance companies. So membership plans typically are directly between your patient and you. There's not a third party employer paying for it. We've built basically the modern age direct reimbursement technology into Dental HQ. So now you can take your membership plan, go to small businesses, have them reimburse or pay for the membership plans for their employees. So direct reimbursement never really worked very well because it was too cumbersome, too complicated. And so it just kind of fell on its face. But we've built a solution that we think can kind of get that back going forward again. So it's in-house membership plans are different from direct reimbursement, but the solution we built actually has the potential to bring it back. I don't know. Do you agree, Dr. Blair?
I totally agree with that. And direct reimbursement died because there was no brokers to sell it and all that. And you're right. It's a form of kind of direct reimbursement. And it's really a beautiful format. And one other thing is that some of your patients, they're paying out of pocket for their spouse coverage. And if their spouse is up to snuff, it's cheaper, better to just do an in-house discount plan on the spouse rather than having them on their policy with their employers. Don't you agree on that, Brett?
Oh, yeah. And we had Teresa Duncan on here a couple of weeks ago saying that she believes pretty strongly a lot of these smaller, medium, even large-sized businesses are going to be cutting off their dental insurance plans to hoard money because of the crisis we're going through. So, we need to be prepared and have a plan in place for them, which is kind of why we've been so busy at Dental HQ getting offices set up before we go back. So we had someone ask about kind of how I'm organizing teledentistry into my practice, and I just wanted to finish with that. And that is, as dentists, we have our workflows and we do things our way. And if it's too complicated, we just focus on something else and it goes out the window. I know this very well because I have a company that works with dentists called Dental HQ. So for teledentistry, I met with our team. I said, here's how I'm using it. They helped me set it up and automate it in my practice. And so I said, let's build a video around it. So what I do is when patient calls and needs an emergency exam, if they can't get in that day or there's an issue getting in, we give them the option to sign up for a teledentistry emergency exam. We charge $49. That $49, everything is automated. So we have a video that's going to all of you on how to automate it, everything from beginning to end without even involving your front desk. But they get the link that allows them to schedule their teledentistry appointment. In that link, they have to pay the $49, which is our fee, to schedule it. Once it's scheduled and they paid their fee, they get a reminder about the appointment with a link to where to meet me online. I get a reminder, and we both meet up at the same spot with them having already paid. We do the teledentistry. I log into my PMS. I make my note. It's a beautiful system. You then just take the paywall down, And now you've got that scheduling link, and you can use that as a mass email to your patients, which I had huge success with. You could use that on your website as a hyperlink behind any kind of picture to allow your patients to schedule free virtual consults. You could even do social media campaigns with free virtual consults. And the solution we put together is a free solution. So it's DocSeeMe, or DocSeeMe, docsee.me. And it's one of the automated, I think it's free scheduling platforms. We actually did a walkthrough on how to use those to make this fully automated cycle in case, just to make it easy, because dentists aren't going to use it if it's not easy. And so that's why we built it. So be on the lookout for that. I also want to thank Dr. Blair. He's a friend of Dental HQ. He helped me put this whole thing together many years ago. I took the train down to Charlotte, laid out everything I was thinking about doing, and he kind of helped me come up with great ideas. And he's been a great friend of ours since the beginning. So I want to thank him for helping everybody. Teledentistry is such a hot topic right now. Dr. Blair, did you have any final comments to make?
No, I don't. All I would say is for further information, just check our blog at practicebooster.com, and they can stay up to date on this is a really changing marketplace. So thank you so much for having me today. My pleasure.
Well, thank you for being here, and tons of great information. You'll kind of unpack this in the recording that we're going to send all of you. One final comment. We've done 3 of these series. They have been fantastic. We had Dr. Levin and Kane Waters on the first one. We had Laura Hatch, Teresa Duncan, Ryan Vett on the last one. We have Dr. Blair today. And we're going to wrap all this up next week before everyone goes back to work with one that we're doing with Dental HQ on how to build a membership plan, how to implement a plan, how to market it, and 10 ways to make it rock. It's going to be a lot of us talking. We're going to try not to make it too salesy, just kind of a how to do it. But we'd love to have you join us for that. It's another free webinar we'll send everybody emails about. You'll get your recording of this. You'll get your free video, how-to video on how to do a teledentistry merger automation. And other than that, thank you everyone for joining us. It's been so much fun today, and looking forward to seeing you again maybe next week. All right?
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.